Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today we are taking a look at Death's Head 2, issue number 4, cover dated June 1992. Why? Because we are looking at some Liam Sharp art. This issue is the only issue I had back in the day of Death's Head. I just picked it up randomly somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. But I really love this issue. It's probably the funnest of the whole miniseries, I think. And one of the reasons, definitely the cool art by Liam Sharp, but also the storyline here. We've got kind of a what if going on. A lot of the Marvel characters in kind of a dark future. Now, realize that I know that's kind of a trope that's been used to death by this point, over the last 30, 40 years. But when I was just starting to collect comics back in the day, this was pretty new to me and pretty original and pretty fun to see all these characters in a different context in the future, see how they changed their different costumes and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. And going through the book again recently for this review, I had a lot of fun going through it and hope you guys enjoy the review because this one kind of has a special place in my heart from back in the day. So I'd forgotten as well that this was a gatefold cover, great looking cover by Liam Sharp, and we're going to see some of the Marvel characters that we're going to encounter in this issue: Scarlet Witch, She-Hulk, Rhino, Wolverine, Captain America, and others as well. So this, I remember as I was drawing as a kid, is what led me to, kind of the idea that, hey, I could do my own kind of different versions and different costumes of, established Marvel and DC characters. And I had a lot of fun doing that. I'm sure we all did it back then. And it really became a trope that got overused, especially during the 90s. But I think this is still pretty novel at this point. When this came out. So starting you off right away with a splash with just a little bit of an establishing shot of some, barren wasteland in the future. So 2020 Vision is the name of the story. And what we're seeing is that future from 1992 in the year 2020. The dark future waiting for the Death's Head continuity storyline. The Wild Hunt Part 4 brought to you by Story Dan Abnett, pencils Liam Sharp, inks Andy Lanning, and Liam Sharp are both doing, so some of the inks are by Liam Sharp as well. Excuse me, I thought maybe he was doing the colors, but no, the colors are by Helen Stone and the letters by Perry Godbold. I finally said his name right. So right away you'll recognize Spider-Man in kind of a variation of his black costume, Dr. Stephen Strange quite a bit older, and a Daredevil over here kind of sporting a half Batman and a half Daredevil costume, and also a goatee. He's last review anyways, I talked about one of my past reviews recently is what I'm trying to say. Reviewing Vortex, I talked about the Brad Pitt goatee, so I guess maybe Liam Sharp was influenced by that as well. So in this future, we are reintroduced to the villain that we saw last issue, kind of merging with Death's Head's body and forming this new entity called Charnel or Charnel. Not quite sure how you're supposed to say that. I feel like I should say Charnel. It's a French word. So basically the Marvel heroes in 2020 that are left are kind of the resistance fighting against the, evil dictatorship of Charnel in this post-apocalyptic nightmare. And of course, a lot of them are going to die and people are going to have to be sent to the past, which is a common theme in Death's Head, to save the Marvel universe or the Marvel UK universe. Daredevil, first to bite it here. Great shot, though, here of Frank Castle, Punisher, kind of holding him while he's still fighting off Charnel's minions, right? These kind of formless minions that he's sending off against the heroes. But very quickly, that's a cool shot. I feel like there's a Kirby kind of vibe to it, and as far as the energy emanations and the angles and stuff, and we're not quite feeling that Jim Lee influence in this issue as much as, say, the first few that I reviewed. There's some places where we'll see it and I'll point it out, but I feel like, it's still got the 90s style hatching, but a bit more of a Kirby influence on this almost splash page here. And I mean, there's so many characters and all of them need to die that, like, Spider-Man even just kind of gets dispatched real quick in a small panel down here as he's trying to catch the time displacement disc, which will become an important plot point. And then the Punisher faces off. And I mean, we all know the Punisher, as opposed to the other guys who have superpowers, is just human. So we know what's going to happen there. But we do see someone's hand as he's throwing the disc away, picking up the disc. And that's going to come into play a little bit later. Delivered by the Rhino. We see the disc in his hand. Again, like I said, interesting to see which characters are now used to be villains, but are now on the same team. So you got Rhino, you got Wolverine, again, Scarlet Witch and She-Hulk, and you've got Captain America. I will say this design that's a little bit different for all the Avengers, right? Pretty crotch-centric, where the stripe kind of comes out of the crotch is kind of an odd choice. Daredevil had it as well. Rhino does. Again, just an odd choice. Not saying these are the most inspired or best designs, but it's fun to see them and see Liam Sharp's kind of 90s interpretation of future Marvel heroes. Interesting thing with Mr. Fantastic, he's kind of been stretched out and he just can't constrict back into his original form, so he's just kind of a goo in some sort of containment unit, I guess, and still helping out the Avengers as best as he can with his brain, right? So we're back to the present, New York, 1992. Cool shot of, I find this is very 90s. I feel like they've shown up in a mall, which is a very 80s and 90s thing, is the mall, right? I don't know how, popular the malls are today anymore with online shopping and stuff. But back then, malls were kind of the cool place to go hang out at. So it makes sense that it would figure so prominently in a 90s comic. And again, full 90s aesthetic going on. So color-wise as well, I gotta say, the colors are very 90s, but kind of interesting. They're trying some different stuff here at Marvel UK and on Death's Head than I would see in regular Marvel comics of the period. So very colorful, slightly psychedelic, so I kind of like it. All right, our heroes have moved to the past, so Wolverine right away attacking Death's Head 2, thinking, of course, that it's Charnel or Death's Head, whatever you want to call him, the original. And what he finds out is that, his adamantium is not quite as strong as he thought it was, right? Now, there's a novelty, so one of his claws breaks. Not something I think that had been done with Wolverine by that point. So, of course, because it's a what-if story and doesn't really, it's not going to, once the plot resolves, it's not going to affect Marvel continuity. You can do those kind of things, obviously. Here's a shot where I feel, Wolverine's very much kind of a Jim Lee kind of look. I do appreciate that he is smoking, though. I've talked about that a lot, right? Characters don't smoke in comics anymore, and I find that kind of ridiculous. They still drink sometimes, so what's the difference? All right, so here is where, once again, Charnel comes back into play, and he's still kind of in that symbiosis mode between Death's Head and the villain, kind of merging together, so not quite at his full power. So this is, a great moment to attack him. Here's another shot. Looks very Jim Lee in the hatching. This shot of the Rhino being pushed back, I think, is really cool. You're starting to see Liam Sharp, really stretch his muscles and do some cool stuff and some cool foreshortening and some interesting composition and layout. Not that he wasn't before, but it feels like he's becoming more confident, especially in these action sequences. I think all of his stuff works pretty darn well. Cool kind of paneling here of, Death's Head, I guess, being sent, or trying to convey the sense that he's been sent to oblivion or something, or disappearing. Just, that telltale bit of smoke left over. Cool shot of Wolverine here, right? Definitely got the, Jim Lee style hatching, but the figure work, I think, is all Liam Sharp and looks pretty cool. And let's talk about the layouts too, because he's really varying them all the way through. Thick black borders, small vertical panel, thin horizontal. Even here, I think it's meant that the panel has this shape here, which is kind of interesting and different. Great shot of Captain America. And again, even though you get a little bit of the West Coast hatching, some of the detail work, I think, works really well here on Captain America. It looks great. Great kind of forward thrusting shot. And the fact that his hand here is resting on the bottom of the panel, I think, is kind of cool, right? Like there's a surface he's just kind of leaned on right up there in the foreground. So they seem to have the upper hand here, right? Wolverine's cutting through this guy. The Shield's cutting his arm off. So they seem to be on the winning side for now, right? This shot here, Rhino down here with the smoke and the motion lines of him running towards Charnel, I think looks really cool and works really well. But here, all of a sudden, on this double page splash, and very cleverly done, because you got the big cool image here of Charnel basically siphoning the energy off of the Scarlet Witch. you know, good shadows, just good creepy monster look, very 90s, of course, you know, somewhat imagey, I guess, at this point, if I can say it that way. But then the way the page is laid out with, you know, the focus here, then you got a bit of focus here on this character, on these characters down here. I think, you know, you kind of work your way down. The reading direction is just very clear, cool looking image. And at this point, since he's got the heightened energy, I guess that is very similar to how we saw him in the future, 2020. So he's at his full powers. Quickly dispatches Captain America, Wolverine, and Rhino all in one fell swoop. And again, the visual representation of them kind of meeting their demise or kind of being disintegrated, I guess. We're kind of seeing their skeleton, right? And just some visual bits so we recognize the character. A bit of Wolverine's hair and the claws, Captain America's shield, the Rhino's horn, right? But yeah, we know that they're not coming back here. Just a simple kind of quick, almost fully silhouetted shot of Death's head and his ladies. I forget their names, but I think that works really well and really cool for just one small, quick kind of throwaway panel. And basically what they devise is the fact that Charnel already has a time displacement disc. Death's head throws on a second one and programs them both to go to different times. And with the help of the Scarlet Witch's hex power, helps to separate them both. And that's how Charnel is dispatched in this issue. So we see that the characters from the future timeline start to dissipate a little bit a la, you know, Back to the Future when you look at that picture there. And I think that's a pretty good shot of Scarlet Witch. I will say that Liam Sharp already early on, very, very talented and good at drawing the ladies, I will say. And some very, you know, attractive ladies, but also fairly naturalistically posed overall. Not too kind of fairly natural, I guess I would say. Not too exaggerated where you see the butt and the boobs in the same shot, right? That twisted back thing that the image guys would do. A little more classy here and a little more in tune with, you know, someone walking forward or, you know, just some interesting body language rather than someone just posing. And again, I think the Scarlet Witch looks really good here too. Here's a shot where, to me, they're still trying to go for that Jim Lee aesthetic. The hatching here is very West Coast, those reflective ovals and stuff. But it looks pretty cool. And so, as Death's head rides off with one of the ladies, leaving one behind, the Avengers show up. And, you know, very conveniently, she just kind of leaves through another time warp kind of situation. And this sequence here, interesting, where the Avengers are, you know, kind of curious as to what's going on. So they're going to follow the semi being driven by Death's head too. I don't think this ever gets resolved in any storyline, but it's an interesting way to leave the comic, especially with the dialogue saying, you know, what did you say this place was called? Manhattan. And what will we find there? Best guess, tuck, action, adventure, and heinous intrigue. And that's just on the subway. Whatever happens, I can promise you it won't be dull. Of course, you know, reinforced by the fact that the Avengers are kind of following them and that we can imagine there's going to be some sort of confrontation. But again, I don't think there ever actually is any kind of resolution to this plot point, but a fun way to finish off the Death's Head 2 miniseries. This is always fun, a bit of back matter where we see some of the stuff that was, I guess, rejected or sketches. So we've got the first ever sketch of Death's Head 2 by Liam Sharp. So it's kind of first pass at it. Unused panels below left also showing the culmination of the fight scene in issue 1, which I don't have issue 1, so unfortunately I didn't see that, but this was left out and this was left out, and a whole fully unpublished page from Death's Head 2 issue 1. Interesting. A lot of unused art on that first issue. We got some ads for other Marvel UK stuff that never really interested me, to be honest. I think for a while I had that first issue of the Knights of Pendragon, but wasn't quite as evocative as Death's Head. I feel like Death's Head and maybe Hell's Angel were the only titles that got a little bit of shine, a little bit of attention. Terror Inc. There's something that just everyone forgot about, right? All right, well, that is it, guys, for my Death's Head 2 issue number 4 review, issue 4 of the miniseries. If you are still watching and are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support. If you're watching but not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So everyone out there, thanks again for watching and have yourselves an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.